2019 is coming to an end. And you know what New Year's resolution everyone should have this year? To play more video games. Look, you've never followed the generic be healthier resolution before, so why not just be proud of who you are and embrace your laziness? To help you get started with this resolution, I'm going to list off 20 games for you to play in the new year. Some of these games I've talked about before, but others are going to be new to this channel, so in no particular order, let's pick out 20 games to play in 2020. Also, just a little note, I'm feeling kind of sick, so I'm sorry if I sound gross. I didn't really want to put a note about this because sometimes whenever YouTubers do that, it just comes off as kind of like awkward or something, but then I heard how disgusting I sounded, so I was like, well, I better at least warn them or something. So I'm sorry that I sound gross. Anyway, on with the video. Generally, I've never really liked the mainline Mario games. I like the Mario franchise, but most of my association with it is from Smash Bros. And Mario Kart. But Super Mario 3D World is a game that I surprisingly love. At first, I picked it up for my birthday because it was fairly cheap and I thought it would give me something fun to play. But I ended up really liking it. The bright colors, fun music, and creative gameplay all make for a relaxing, rewarding game. Following up Super Mario 3D World, you should also play Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. There are preview levels of this game littered throughout 3D World, and I think this was some really effective advertising. It never feels annoying or forced, and both the games are fairly cheap, so it's not unreasonable to tie them together. Again, I wasn't sure if I would like this game, but the 3D puzzle format really grew on me, and I even spent a lot of time going back and getting the stars I missed, which is something I don't usually care about in video games. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about why you should play Sly 3: Honor Among Thieves. I would say this is my favorite game in the Sly series. It has the most memorable characters, missions, and storyline. I loved riding gondolas, flying airplanes, and battling pirate ships. This game was a really big part of my elementary school years, and while some aspects of it are a bit dated now, especially the graphics, I definitely think it's a classic worth revisiting. Continuing on the Sly Cooper trend, let's talk about another great Sly game, Thieves in Time. I remember feeling a bit skeptical of this game when it first came out. Instead of Sucker Punch handling the project, Sanzaru Games developed this last entry in the series. This brought a lot of changes to the Sly format, and it felt jarring at first. While some of these adjustments weighed down the game, like Sly's tongue. Okay, why is it so red? And why are his teeth so white? Am I the only person who was bothered by this as a kid? Overall though, there were a lot of fun new gameplay concepts introduced to this installment, and the story was amped up to improve on the last few games. So I mentioned Sly 3 and 4, but why not 1 and 2? Well, I never really played those ones. Look, they were just a bit too old for me, and I never got around to playing them, but I'm sure they're still good and you should play them. The dancing thing in Sly 2 is fun, at least. Another great franchise sequel, or in this case, threequel, is Little Big Planet 3. Now, if I'm being honest, this franchise has kind of died. There aren't really any more games coming out, and the online community hasn't been very active. But still, that doesn't mean you shouldn't relive the good memories of this franchise with Little Big Planet 3. There's a lot of new, fun content to be found in this game, and I really think it's worth your time. I enjoyed all of the new characters and gameplay mechanics that were introduced into this game, and I think you guys will too. Another great Little Big Planet game is Little Big Planet Karting. Now, I know a lot of times when you hear a franchise has made a karting or party game spin-off, you generally think of it as a cash grab mooching off the success of Mario Kart and Mario Party. But in my opinion, Little Big Planet Karting is a pretty solid game, even on its own. The karting mechanics work well on the PlayStation, and the level creator isn't that bad. Also, I think it has one of the best soundtracks in the LBP series, so you should definitely check it out. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a fun way to spend the time when you're snowed in. As usual, the Mario series has started a lot of trends in gaming, and the Mario Kart series is no exception from that, as evident with the last game we looked at. While Mario Kart 8 and Mobile have been good installments, I think the Wii version has been one of the best additions of this series. I remember waking up early before school to play another round of Toad's Factory, or practicing for hours to get first place in Rainbow Road. Mario Kart Wii has some of the best characters, stages, and songs in the series, and I think it's worth preserving amongst some of the newer games. Speaking of Wii franchises, let's talk about Wii Sports, and the undecidedly superior Wii Sports Resort, look, this game is just objectively better and provides us with higher quality matte content. While Wii Motion Plus is a pain to set up, it allowed for a lot of new, more exciting mini games to play. From wakeboarding to swordplay to basketball, this Wii Sports game adds on to the mini franchise while still keeping the charm of its predecessor. Another great sports game to check out is Hot Shots Tennis. I would assume that the Hot Shots franchise, or the Everybody's franchise I guess, isn't a household name, but it's got a lot of fun, easy to pick up but difficult to master games under its belt. Hot Shots Tennis was a favorite in my household, and my sister and I still play it to this day. It's got a wide variety of characters, one of which would probably not fly today, as well as a large assortment of stages to play on. This game has a really fun, sporty sense to it that'll definitely improve your year. If you want a game with even more competitive spirit, then check out Dragon Ball FighterZ, or Dragon Ball Fighters, or Dragon Ball FighterZ for the apparently 54 British people who have watched my videos. While the name is confusing, deciding whether this game is good or not is not confusing. Oh, sorry, that was really dumb. Anyway, even if you're not a Dragon Ball Super fan, you can still get a lot of enjoyment out of this game. It has a pretty big roster, a good campaign, and a combat system that is just fun to play. And I also have to give props to the art in this game. Not only does it include a lot of references to the Dragon Ball manga, as many fans have pointed out, it does a great job of translating the 2D anime style to a 3D fighting game. Going a little back, we have another fun installment to the fighting game genre called Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. While you'd think a Capcom fighting game wouldn't translate very well to the Wii Remote, the controls on this game aren't too bad. It's clunky in some areas, but after you get used to it, you can pull off a lot of great attacks. And not only is the gameplay solid in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, it has a lot of interesting stories and characters to follow as well. I ended up liking a lot of characters that I would have never been introduced to otherwise because of this game, and I think it deserves my recommendation because of that. Going a lot back, we have the greatest fighting game ever created, if not the greatest game of all time. Check out my birthday special to hear more about that. And this game is called Pocket Fighter, or Super Gem Fighter Mini Mix, apparently. This game was my first ever Street Fighter game, and it really got me into not only Street Fighter, but fighting games in general. It's definitely a unique addition to the genre that focuses more on fun, high-energy gameplay rather than gritty tactical battles, and it really struck a chord with me. The cute characters and challenging gameplay all make this game worth your time. On the note of chibi-fied versions of classic characters, let's talk about Fortune Street. This game doesn't have a giant fan base or anything, but I feel like the people who have played it have really connected with it. Fortune Street takes the classic Monopoly formula and twists and turns it in a lot of ways that make it really enjoyable to play. It works great as a party game because it's easy to pick up, but also has a lot of intricacies that only skilled players will be able to exploit. And this game introduced me to the Dragon Quest franchise, so it gets some points for that too. Not only is Fortune Street a great Dragon Quest spin-off game, Dragon Quest Builders 2 provides an interesting take on the franchise's RPG formula as well. While at first glance, it does seem like an attempt to leech off the success of games like Minecraft and Terraria, Dragon Quest Builders 2 found a way to blend the elements of RPG games into the sandbox format in a really cool way. This game is solid in its art, story, and gameplay, and I've sucked more hours into it than I can count. And of course, you should check out the first installment in this mini-series before you play DQB2, but I felt that the sequel was worth mentioning as well. If you want a Square Enix game with a more epic scale to it, then you should check out Final Fantasy XV. I've been giving this game some praise recently with my review of its mini anime Brotherhood, but I really want to give it some props. It has some fairly glaring flaws like button mashing gameplay and a confusing story, but I think the four main guys are really what hold this game together. 15 really accomplished its goal of telling a story about brotherhood, and it's worth your time to follow the adventure it takes you on. Now, when I was making this list, I was struggling to find a way to connect a gritty, fantastical game like Final Fantasy XV to something as silly as Cooking Mama. But then I realized something. Ignis is the ultimate Cooking Mama. So, if you want to be like your best boy Ignis, give Cooking Mama a play in 2020. I'm not really playing this game regularly, but sometimes I'll just get an urge to play Cooking Mama, and I always have a good time with it. The graphics and gameplay are pretty dated, but they still have charm to them, and it all makes for a great game to play with friends and family. Another great party game is Wii Party. I mean, it's right in the name. While this game may look simple or cheap at first glance, it's actually really well made and fun to play. A lot of inside jokes and memories have spawned from this game, and it's always a hit when friends or family come to visit. There's a wide variety of game modes to play, and each one brings a new fun experience to the table. Nintendo has been making great games like Wii Party since the beginning, and one of my favorites of the classic Nintendo games is Kirby's Adventure. It holds up even to this day with well-developed gameplay and adorable art. It also introduced Kirby's iconic copy ability, a change that added a lot of fun strategy to the game as well as making it stand out from games like Mario and The Legend of Zelda with more traditional power-ups. Kirby's Adventure has been a favorite of mine since I was young, and it was the game that started my love for the Kirby series. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse was another enjoyable addition to the franchise. Like Kirby's Epic Yarn, this game makes clever use of its clay aesthetic. The gameplay is centered around drawing and creating structures with your clay to move Kirby across the board, and in general, everything on screen really does look like it's made out of clay. While it took a little bit to get used to, I ended up enjoying this new gameplay style, and it was an interesting change of pace from the usual Kirby controls. To finish off your games to play list, make sure you check out Super Paper Mario. This game was one that I kind of unexpectedly loved. I had never played any of the other Paper Mario games, and originally this game was for my sister, but as I watched her play it, I got really invested and decided to try it for myself. While some parts of it felt a little weird and clunky, the rest of the game was really well done. Like Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, it puts its paper aesthetic to use, with the gameplay and animation being centered around the idea of having a 2D and 3D world. The story was a bit hard to follow as a kid, but I still really liked the characters, and now I can appreciate it a little more. Overall, Super Paper Mario will give you hours of fun gameplay to enjoy. And there are 20 games to play in 2020. I hope you enjoyed all of my recommendations and maybe even decide to pick up a few of these games. Have a happy holiday, and I'll see you all next year. Bye!